Well, hi everyone. I'm excited to have Matt Young, who is the head of commercial and player data. Matt, nice to have you.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to have me. Good to connect.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining again, Matt. So let's, jump into it right away. So I'm really interested in your story, how you got in sport tech and how you got to this position where you are at right now.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd always loved playing sports as a young kid growing up. Kind of tried my hand at everything under the sun. Probably realised that I was never going to be good enough to be able to, make it in anything as a job. And then I went and studied exercise science at University of Tasmania, where I'm from in Australia, which was really fun. Really enjoyed it. Great people down there. It was a good school. And then I kind of went from there, working in a few corporate jobs in different industries, but it always had a passion for sport on the side, and kind of built my skill set, and learned some tools along the way. And then I ended up taking a job for a company called Catapult Sport, which many people might have heard of, an Aussie kind of sports tech company, probably about 10 years ago. So started off there in Melbourne in Australia, leading the sales in Australia and then throughout Asia Pacific.
Okay, and then after Catapult, how you got right?
Yeah. I guess what next? Catapult bought another company that was a athlete management system. It's like a database that ingests all the different data sets. And so I moved to the US. I live in Boston. I moved over here in 2018 to work on and kind of run that business vertical.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, they just pivoted strategy and ended up shutting it down. So I bounced out of Catapult and went and worked for a pre-product, pre-revenue startup, which was an interesting experience. I think I learned a lot, definitely had its challenges. And then did that for a year or two. And then I ended up joining another sports tech company called PlayerData about 2 years ago, which has been really fun. I think I learned in my time at Catapult that as a commercial person, having product market fit's pretty important to be able to scale things, grow, and bring your skills or experience. And when I joined Catapult, it was probably about 60 people and ended up, like 300 or 400 by the time I left. I joined PlayerData when we were maybe 40 or 50 people. And yeah, we've really built the business out over the last couple of years, which has been cool. Probably tripled each year over the last 2 or 3 years, growing really steadily. And I kind of grown from, I was the first like sales hire in the US, built a US team out, picked up the global team, structured a few things there. And then we've been building our go-to-market, our marketing engine as well over the last 12 months. And now I'm leading the sales, RevOps, marketing and partnerships functions across the business, which has been
Wow, yeah, what a journey. Well, you mentioned right player data, and you grew like in 2 years 3 times, you said?
Yeah, we've actually tripled each year for the last 3 years. So I think we were like less than $1 million of recurring revenue, and we'll probably hopefully be around 10 by the end of the year this year. So really growing pretty steadily.
Yeah, so tell us about player data. It's exciting, right? You mentioned that product market fit is really important, and it seems like what you guys have, and interesting to hear.
Yeah, it was a bit different. Like the two co-founders, actually, really cool story. Roy, who's one of our founders and CEO, I think like working with technical founders is awesome. They have a really unique skill set when they can be in the weeds and building. And I think that gives a business a real competitive advantage. So Roy and Hayden, who are our two co-founders here, had never really been athletes, really smart engineers, studied computer science at the University of Edinburgh. And they have like an orientation week or a freshers week, you'd call it in Scotland. I had to ask them what it was, where you could try all the different sports. And Roy tried archery and he just kind of fell in love with it straight away and ended up building himself a biomechanics suit to help train, and qualified for the Olympics. So he went from being like never tried this before to in 2 years' time had made himself a virtual coach and qualified for the Olympics in his home country, which is Thailand, and was going to go to Rio. He ended up being in a car accident, unfortunately, and wasn't able to go, but kind of picked up a lot of that skill set that he'd learnt and applied it to some technology and was like, hey, how can I democratize the GPS or the player tracking market? Some of the other sports on campus at the University of Edinburgh just said, hey, like, can you help us make something that we can use that isn't just built for your elite of the elite where budgets are somewhat more unlimited? So that was really where PlayerData started about 7 years ago. They lived through a pandemic. It's kind of grown from a small startup in Edinburgh in Scotland to now we're, spread geographically throughout the globe. We're probably in 25 countries. I think we serve more than 50,000 athletes, and we're probably getting up around 2,000.
Wow. So what is the main market for the company?
Yeah, main market right now is we make a player tracking wearable. So we've got a GPS unit, super easy to use. We kind of built from the bottom up, so we're able to almost design for user experience rather than a like complicated workflow that you might find some others on the market. Our core market, we started off working with grassroots teams in the UK, but we've been lucky enough now to work across all ends of the spectrum from, a high school or your local soccer or rugby team all the way up to the US Soccer Federation men's national team are going to be using our technology at the World Cup. The Boston Red Sox use our technology. Crystal Palace use our technology. So we've been able to like cross all ends of the spectrum with the same piece of hardware and the same software, which is pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, it's expanding fast. So it's not real tied to the sport, right? Or is it like some?
No, we work across multiple sports. So traditionally, I guess GPS tech in general, field-based running sports is where the core has been. So you're trying to measure, hey, how far are people running? How fast? How hard did we practice or train today? What does that compare like to a game? What was our volume and our intensity like this week on last week? Or this week compared to last week? The application to answer those questions is also the same for plenty of indoor sports, basketball, volleyball. I know you played a bit of ice hockey where you're trying to work out, hey, what was our training session like today? What do I do in a game? What does my shift load look like? So the questions that the coaching staff and the sports performance staff want to answer are reasonably consistent across all sport. You just have a little bit of a different metric set. And we've actually just launched a couple of months ago the world's first GPS-enabled smart ball. So we partnered with Nike, Puma, and Mida on that, put the sensors or the chip in a ball, and we're going to start to be able to bring another layer of statistics or insights to people in soccer, and a couple more exciting product launches that we've got about to come out in the next month or two, which will be fun as well.
No way. Congrats on these deals, with I think it's a really huge deals with big companies.
Yeah, it's been interesting to learn. You're at a small, nimble startup that can spin really quickly, and then when you're dealing with a big corporate giant like Nike, they operate at a different scale. So it's been good to build some relationships with some of those big, leading sports companies in the world. See how they work, see what we can learn from them, and then also launch the ball, which I think ultimately will be cool for the customers. A big gap in training where, players, let's say I'm a football player, I spend 10 hours a week on the training pitch. No one really knows what we do. They'll collect the GPS data, they might watch a bit of video, but as far as having for an academy prospect, how many touches did someone have? How many were left foot versus right foot? What does that look like for our starting midfielder versus our reserve midfielder or our backup midfielder? Is one of them getting 5 times more touches than the next? And is that compounding day on day, week on week? And then after 2 or 3 years, there's a big skill gap there. There's some of the questions, hopefully, that we're going to be able to help people answer.
Wow, yeah, that's really interesting. And it seems like you mentioned, that you're trying to democratize, right, the data for grassroots and not like academies, and having, a ball, having the GPS, you could create a lot of data and stats for them.
Yeah, I think we're trying to say, hey, what happens if you grab an iPhone, a MacBook, or an iPad? They all are easy to use. They all talk to each other. They all have a great user experience. And that's kind of what PlayerData is about at its core, which is how do we create data sources that let people answer questions they want to answer through building things that are efficient, simple, easy to use, easy to pick up. You have the layers of data. What we've actually learnt, which has been interesting, if I'm playing in a Premier League game or an NBA game, I've got all of the optical tracking data, all the statistical data, all the often coded from computer vision, some of it coded by hand, whatever it might be. But that same data set doesn't exist in training because they don't have the resources to put cameras on 6 training courts or 9 training pitches or fields. So we're trying to bring the same layer of insights that you'd get in a match or a game to training for those kind of top-end pro elite teams. And then also, as you step down a level into the market and you think about more, hey, I'm a 3rd division soccer team in Belgium, or I'm one person, I'm 2 coaches, 1 fitness coach, 2 coaches. I don't have access to those resources either in a match, and I'd also like to be able to get those insights. But the ground I'm playing on doesn't have cameras installed. We don't have optical tracking. We don't have statistical data. So it's been an interesting learning experience for us, because what started almost at how do we provide these insights at the grassroots or the semi-pro or the lower pro level actually applies at the like elite level in the training environment as well.
Yeah, that's I never thought about this, to be honest, because I saw like elite environment has like all data they would like to have. But yeah, the training stuff is it's interesting.
Yeah, I think like elite match data, there's a lot of data they can analyze it and have done a really good job over it over a long period of time. Teams have really smart data science teams, have deep understanding of the game, the tactics, the things that will help them win. But in the training environment, there's a big opportunity to help them answer better questions, provide more data. And even if it's just like databasing that data over the course of a season on 30 to 100 athletes, so you've got it when you want to look at it, is a good problem for tech to solve.
Well, you work with a lot of clubs, like you mentioned, let's say third division, grassroots, and I definitely see, right, that the clubs are trying to get more data driven nowadays, but also on the other side, they don't have a budget for data science teams, right, like in elite level. And for you, like, what is the most hardest part when, pushing to the clubs? Is it like explaining the value or not really? Is it like trying to integrate them and, helping them actually to take the value from data, right, and to put it in practice? What are the challenges over there working with client and potential clients?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'll put my US hat on first. So we're seeing now that college sports with NIL coming in where the players can start to be, compensated or rewarded or basically paid to play, is becoming more like pro. What that's meaning is at the next layer down, whereas it used to be, hey, you're a college athlete, you go to college, you go to university, you go to college, get your degree, and if you do a really good job, here's your $1 million contract at the end. What's happening now is you go to high school or you play youth soccer, and if you do a really good job at that level, then you go to college and there's your $1 million contract. So there's some tailwinds there in tech adoption, probably driven by finance. Money makes most of the world go around. In that, those decisions that the coaches are having to make, they're really deploying capital now. They're trying to sign players. They want to make sure that they are fit enough, fast enough, skilled enough to come in and kind of play at the level. Because if they offer up, 3 lots of $500,000 or 3 lots of $50,000 to 3 players and they miss on them all, and the coach down the road hits on them all, that's the difference between winning and losing, and they only get to spend that money once.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good time to build tech at the kind of intersection of those two markets, and it's just, I think you see it happen all the time. What happens, 5-10 years ago, and then it just slowly starts to cascade down, becomes easy to use, and tech gets more widespread adopted. Globally, I think different on different sports. It's competitive. The GPS marketplace is pretty competitive. So there you're just like, hey, this workflow is better. Your features are better, your functionality is better, your support's better, you're more economical. If it's a sport where they haven't used it before, then getting with the coaching staff or the sports performance staff and understanding what questions they're trying to answer. What are their, hey, what's causing them injuries? What's causing them questions with their training load? How do they think about planning or periodization? And then how can we give them a tool that can help them answer some of those questions? So yeah, it really just depends.
Okay, what sport would you say the most advanced in terms of the, data and technology right now?
Yeah, great question. Baseball.
Baseball.
Yeah, I think baseball's got, generally they have the biggest R&D departments. They are very analytically driven. Most of the teams, will have 5, 6, 7 different layers in their development program. They've invested a lot in this for a long time. Moneyball started out of baseball.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say baseball's driven a lot of the analytics. Soccer, American football are kind of catching up pretty quickly, but really depends on the organization where they choose to invest their money, what their kind of philosophy is. It's hard to say that there's one sport or group that's, ahead of the others. It's more of a like, hey, what are they doing? What are these people doing? What does the team want to do? What are the coaching staff like? Yeah.
But baseball, you would say probably, at the top.
Yeah. If I had to pick one, I'd say baseball or basketball. Probably baseball or the NBA would be the two that are leading. The big American sports, along with probably, your Champions League soccer clubs, also have the most revenue. The clubs with the most revenue generally invest the most in their analytics. Yeah. Mm-hmm. As far as like using player tracking data, GPS data for training, Australian football is really advanced. Rugby's really strong. And there's a really good academic strength and conditioning, sports science, a lot of good professors, a lot of good universities in Australia that I think's helped driven that. And if you look around now, a lot of the big clubs or big teams in the world have a have an Aussie, sitting in a sports science seat or have been involved in the club for a while. So I think it's also a product of the education and the kind of tree that you grew up in. A lot of the, like US staff have kind of led the way with strength and conditioning for power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a bias there though too, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to cheer for the Aussies.
We will not mention that because I by the accent I saw you're from England at the beginning.
Yeah. Nah.
All right. So, like, how much do you speak with, customers at this point? But like, from what your experience, what are the metrics that clubs are really using to make the decisions, or these coaches in the colleges you said, right? And what are the metrics that are just, let's say, good in demo, but it doesn't really affect their behavior and decision?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd say 80% of the teams around the world use the same, big rock metrics. It's like, what does volume look like? What does intensity look like? Total distance, kind of sprint distance, intensity, meters or yards a minute, number or the density of sprints or events. Then looking at some starting and stopping metrics, so like accelerations, decelerations, some changes of direction. For a recruiting lens, like top speed, ability to hit top speed, how often you can hit top speed, and then someone's ability to kind of maintain the volume. But the big rocks are pretty consistent across them all on the GPS side. With the tactical piece that we're rolling out with the ball, they're looking at, things like, how does this person weave in? What are expected goals, pass completions? Where do they pass the ball? Where do they receive the ball? Runs? It kind of just depends on the philosophy, I think, of the organisation or what they're looking for. I don't think there's a real secret sauce. Most people are pretty consistent. It's the ones that kind of will adopt something across their organisation, do it well, understand what's important to their philosophy.
Well, it's interesting. So from I don't know how many clients you said, like couple thousand, clients, so in bunch. So do you see any, threads between them, those who are using your, product or service really good and then implementing and then gaining the value, and those who are just, not really good? And do you see the common threads between those people and clubs and territories?
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of it's about the people. The technology is a tool to let good people do a great job, and we're a small part of what they do each day and a tool that they use to help them. The common thread is like, hey, what's the collaboration? What's the knowledge? What's the understanding? What's the buy-in like between the staff? How do they communicate with their athletes? What do they want to do as an organization or their objectives? It's a good question. I think that's probably the biggest thing you see when you see people is like, what are the people? What's the collaboration like? What's the buy-in or engagement like across the different departments of an organization? And then how are they working together?
Okay. Like how much you put in, that's how much you get out, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. Well, when sharing your solution, right? Not just like the dashboard for coaches, but like, let's say, a business crucial instrument, like you mentioned, for college coaches and etc. What is the best sales motion, I would say? Is it like return on investment, showing them, actually what they could get as a return on investment? Or is it like, player development stuff, or recruitment, like which angle do you usually try to take?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Our sales motion, I think, depends on the vertical and the person that we're working in. So which of our products we're selling, which vertical are they, what level of the market are they, how experienced are they? That's the fun part about leading a commercial team, is it's always a bit of a balance between art and science, and being able to like think on the fly, update things and then pivot based on what someone's pain points or needs are is really what we're trying to do.
What is your favorite sport?
Great question. It's become American football. No, not rugby or not Australian football. I love Australian football. I still follow reasonably closely. My team, St Kilda, unfortunately, has only won one championship, which was in 1966 when my dad was 6. So that was the first team he can remember winning. And then he got me to cheer for them. But I'm really excited. My home state, Tasmania, is about to get a team coming into the league in 2028. So long overdue. They've been a passionate Australian football state, and I think I might switch my allegiance or I'll have two teams. So I'm excited about that, and we'll be looking forward to tuning in and cheering them on. Moving to Boston 8 years ago, I've been pretty lucky to be in a successful sports city. So I've seen the Patriots win a Super Bowl, the Celtics have won a championship, the Red Sox have won a World Series. So I've just jumped on and cheered for all the Boston teams.
Who is your favorite athlete?
Oh, my favourite athlete, I think Roger Federer. Yeah, that's the first one that comes to mind. I've just always admired him, like great gentleman, super competitor, won consistently over a long period of time. Yeah, and I enjoy playing tennis. I love Roger.
What do you enjoy playing?
Well, I played everything, or I tried everything. I played a lot of Australian football, played some basketball, did a bit of track and field, actually did pole vault for a while. Tennis, I try and play a bit of golf now, which is frustrating. But yeah, just enjoy getting out and being social and active.
What is the best part of your job?
I think seeing the people in my team develop and grow and succeed and enjoy themselves, that's definitely one. Some of the relationships that you've got to build with your colleagues, peers, just it's a great industry to work in. I think generally in sports, most people are pretty hardworking, pretty humble, and pretty competitive. It's a unique industry where it's almost the only thing where you can get judged every week. You know, if you're the CEO of a NASDAQ 50 company, you might get two sets of quarterly results before the performance can be bad and you're like, hey, this isn't doing too well. Whereas if you're coaching a sports team, you know, it can be 2 weeks and you've lost 6 games and there's questions asked. So I think that's kind of cool. It drives innovation and people to be competitive and staying ahead of the game. So I enjoy that as well.
What do you think about sport tech community?
Yeah, good question. I think sport generally, or working in sports and tech generally, has people that are pretty driven, pretty competitive, pretty internally motivated. I spent some time like working in insurance, and there was a lot of people there who they'd come to work each day, you know, put in a 7 out of 10 and go home and enjoy their time with their families, which is great too. But I don't think that they were jumping out of bed thinking about insurance or reading about insurance on the Sunday in the newspaper.
What's the most exhausting part of your job?
Yeah, good question. Sometimes the travel can be a little bit exhausting or heavy. I think I caught 85 flights last year. There's times where I'd like to spend a bit more time at home. Yeah, I think that, and then also trying to manage, budgets, growth, tactics. Like it's a competitive. All of those things can sometimes be a little bit stressful.
What one piece of advice would you give to people who are just coming into sport tech?
Yeah, good question. I think pick up some skills in other areas. If you can get the chance to go work in big tech, work in another startup outside of sports, then you'll learn something and be able to bring that into sports, which is valuable and something that we look for when we're hiring people. It's like, hey, who's someone that has some tech skills or experience that we can bring into the business, and then also has experience as a player, coach, staff member of a sports team, and they can merge those two together. Maybe a question for you. Yeah, how did you go from playing to starting IntelliDect and the podcast? Tell me a little bit more. And you can, I guess, cut this out if you want, but let the listeners know a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, thank you for answering and for asking that. I mean, I used to play ice hockey as a kid, and then growing up, I wanted always to be in the NHL, really played a lot. And then at some point of the time, I noticed that there is a space for data collection for sports, and there is a need for it. So I stopped playing hockey. I was already 20 years old, and I decided I need to go all in on this because I wasn't making it to NHL. So yeah, this was kind of a transition from sports to business.
Yeah, that was cool.
All right. It was nice to have you. Thank you and bye.
Yeah, thank you.